Aloha, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Veterans Financial Edge. I am your host, Jason C. Scott, top 1% mortgage loan originator nationwide and 20-year combat United States Army retired veteran. And this episode is being
powered by Riverside FM.
There you go, Riverside FM. And today's guest is someone that's actually near and dear to my heart. We always talk about here on the Financial Edge. The guests that we bring on, we want to be able to provide value to you as the veteran or potentially spouse of a veteran that is either transitioning, currently serving, you name it, or have served in ways of whether it's building wealth, building your network, job creation, your future career, all that type of stuff. And today's guest, she pretty much hits all three of those blocks, which is pretty cool. And her name is Christina Macmiller, a Navy veteran, military spouse, and a mother to those serving in the military as well. So I just wanted to give her a nice warm welcome and applause. Let's welcome Christina Macmiller. All right, we would normally do that for 9 seconds, but I had to get the cheesy stuff in there. Christina, welcome to the show.
Hi.
I know it's probably dinner time. Did you guys already have dinner or no?
Oh, no. We have a foster puppy that we took in. So we are living with the foster puppy. So we're constantly running around behind a foster puppy.
Fun times. And folks, just so you know, I'm in Colorado. Christina is in Florida. So the 2-hour time zone difference. Luckily, we're able to be on this digital platform, so it makes it work. But it would be dinner time for most folks. We're going to hop right in. Christina, normally I would start off with the question, but I think I just want to let the folks get to know you a little bit first. Why don't you just tell the folks a little bit about yourself, who you are, how we've met, and then we'll just go from there. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
I am like he said, a military Navy veteran. I joined the Navy and got stationed in Hawaii, met my husband in Hawaii. He was a Marine and I was Navy. We married on a beach we had never been to on the Marine Corps base and had our first child in the Pink Hospital. And then he got out and actually, let me go back real quick. I was a Navy veteran. I was a welder. So I was an HT. So
okay.
I had a very different job, shall we say, for most women in the military.
Well, and wasn't Clint, was he infantry at the time in the Marine Corps?
He was infantry, yeah.
Now he was a K-Bay though, right?
When I first met him, he was at Westlock. So
Westlock. Okay.
He was guarding special stuff.
Okay.
And then he went to K-Bay. They dismantled that group and then he went to K-Bay.
Gotcha.
And then, so he became a cop for 2 years in Vermont and then decided that was not for him. So he went back in the Army and did 21 years in the Army and did the 3 back-to-back tours, Iraq, Afghanistan. Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
It's so long ago.
I know. And just folks, so you understand 2 things. One, she mentioned the Pink Hospital. That's like an Easter egg, but if you Google search Pink Hospital on Oahu, it was built during World War II. It's called Tripler Military Army Hospital. It's the largest hospital in the state of Hawaii, and it was actually built backwards. I believe the person that built it actually committed suicide once the forms were built because he realized that it was facing the wrong direction. Did you know that, Christina?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The way we look at Tripler now, you think it's normal. But you know how you go up to the back side to check in? That was supposed to be facing the ocean.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Anyway, that was the Easter egg, folks. Continue.
That's awesome. Yes. My husband, his last duty station was in North Carolina, ECU, at East Carolina University. And so
ROTC.
He got out and transitioned out. And I started to get in. During that time, we actually started a business in Eastern North Carolina, a drive-through coffee shop, which was the profitable side of our business. The other side of it was a brick and mortar, which wasn't as profitable. And you're learning. We won the Small Business of the Year award and thought we were doing great, but as things may come and go, a small town has small town issues, and the brick and mortar was not the way to go. I found out.
Let's talk about that for just a second for our folks, because we do have veterans that transition that have, I don't want to say delusions of grandeur, but they have dreams and aspirations of running their own business.
Yeah.
When you look back, blinders, what were some of the things, maybe the missteps that you thought? Because when I'm guilty of it too, right? Early in my career, when I was successful, you tend to push versus set the conditions, as we would always say on the battlefield. You're like, okay, I can push, I can make this happen, I can will it to happen. And unfortunately, business, that doesn't always happen that way. So
no, I was really because we worked from that town, it became a situation of just trying to hear the customers. I was very customer focused, very customer driven. I had worked at MWR in Hawaii and had gone through Disney customer service training while I was there. And so I really wanted to build off those pillars of Disney customer service. When we had the drive-through coffee shop, it was going great. We were breaking even and paying off debt, which was huge to me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And basically breaking even on our debt to income.
Right.
And working towards everybody's, oh, you got to get a place. You got to get a place. We just love your place, because they would sit there and talk to us. And drive-through was it, because the rent was so low. And
did you guys have your own little kiosk that was like a mobile kiosk that you took or something?
Yeah, it was a mobile kiosk. We had bought actually 2 of them. We had one in storage, and we should have just put the other one up, is the idea. We probably should have just put the other one up, had mobile locations, and really stayed true to that, because we went the other route and went down the brick and mortar, and I was at the mercy of a baker because I didn't want to do the baking side. I was at the mercy of, then I went down and said, oh, once the baker left, because the baker wanted to do her own thing. It was just all these little things that just spun out of control in the restaurant world, which is like insane anyway. You have to hire more staff because you have a brick and mortar. So when you get to about 11 employees, which is what I had, you start to realize your overhead is truly people. And it's going to be people when you have
3/4 of your budget, your expense budget, is going to be payroll.
Yeah. And it's more than taxes are the craziest part of it. I wish people understood taxes, because they wouldn't be saying half the stuff they'd say if they knew, oh, these rich people. I'm like, yeah, but they got to pay a lot. There's another side to those people that put you in work in your own job. There's another side to it. Please remember that. Yeah, we went down that road, and luckily we were able to sell parts of the business. We sold the actual drive-through, which is still open and still very profitable. The person has a wonderful business. So it's great to see that even though we didn't succeed, to see somebody, and we did, because that was profitable on that side, but not the brick and mortar. To see someone though take it on and continue it on and see it there, and like we drive up and get some whenever we're in North Carolina, we'll go over and see it. That you can go, oh, I did that type thing. Like I was able.
Where's that in North Carolina?
It's in Washington, North Carolina.
Okay.
It's Perfect Perks Coffee Company.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Because when, I have veterans all the time reach out to me like, Jay, how did you get into what you're doing? I want to do what you do. And I'm like, no, you don't want to do what I do. You see the glory, but you have no idea what the story is. Like they don't realize it's 12 years of a grind and counting. And that I was very fortunate that I took advantage of an opportunity that presented itself when I still had about 1.5 years left in the Army before I retired. And it's funny because I try to talk people out of it, because I'll say, hey, if you want to get in this industry, it's commission only. You got to have at least 12 months worth of assets or reserves to be able to pay your bills, because you may not make anything your first year, right? Like it's entirely possible. Like I go, and that's not even counting your investment costs to get licensed and, all your education, right? So I really try to dissuade them, not because I see them as competition, just because I don't want to see them fail.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'll be honest, most people are not wired like you or Clint or myself, where I'm just going to will it to work, right? Like I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. And a lot of people aren't. Like as soon as they hit that first obstacle or roadblock, their world comes crumbling down. And I want to be the last person that said, yeah, you should have done this. I really do try to talk them out of it. But for folks that are already in the industry and they're like, Jay, how do you have your own shop now? I'm like, again, you see the glory, you don't understand the story. Like my people get paid before I do, right? That's the thing that they don't understand. Like I always tell people that entrepreneurship is the hardest, best paying job, or the hardest, lowest paying job, depending on what your acumen is, right? And I would gladly work 120 hours a week for myself before going back to a 40 to 60 hour a week working for the man. But that's the way I'm wired. Not everybody's that way, right? So now you start with this coffee, and I'll be honest, you look at like Black Rifle, you look at, I think Freedom Coffee is another one that just came out that's starting to blow up. Back when we were deployed, it was Green Bean, which they've done obviously pretty well.
So I have a friend who runs Operator Coffee.
Okay,
And
operators. So probably a JSOC person, right? Or someone that was a JSOC person, right?
aircraft, Air Force.
Okay, but the margins are actually, guys, and that's the other thing. When you're looking at potential business ideas, one, it's got to be something you got to be passionate about. First off, Christina, you love coffee, right?
Yeah, we were always coffee drinkers, and I loved making it. Like, I loved finding different ones. Like, I was very interested in it. Both Clint and I were very interested in it. So it wasn't a situation of going into something. And I did the research. It took 4 to 5 months just to research where to put this coffee shop, because the ideal locations, you have to have certain volume going across roads. You go down these rabbit holes that, spend hours. You had to spend
I'll tell
hours.
you where an awesome location would have been the motor pool on 25th. Would have crushed it. Every Monday you would have sold out.
Yeah.
Huge.
Oh, yeah. See,
The Processing Center has a kiosk coffee shop behind.
Yeah. I was in a Walmart parking lot in that town.
Oh, there you go. High traffic area. Boom.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer.
And you're paying a very small lease space to them, right? Because do they take out the profit margin?
Here's the thing. Like, I literally could name my price and I could go in and barter, because they were not getting any money from a parking spot. I'm providing them money outside, and they didn't have to maintain a building. They were basically getting free money.
And they didn't have to provide power, because you probably had generators and stuff like that, right?
No, I had power duct.
Oh.
To the pool. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. This is no joke. Like, it is ground into the pavement. Like, it'll take a lot to move that building.
That's awesome. So you had the right frame of mind. Like you said, you did the research. So from point of inception, as far as the idea to execution, what did that timeline look like?
I opened April 1st of 20. Yeah, I know. April 1st of 2013. It was June by just April 1st.
I think President Trump waited to give an announcement until April 2nd just because of that. The
funniest thing is I bought everything used, and my espresso machine broke. My first cup of coffee was the worst cup of coffee ever. My first $1, I would have never given that cup of coffee. I should have never given it out. You look back at it now and go, oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so many things I would have done differently had I known. And the biggest thing is, you can educate yourself all day long, but you have to walk the path to learn what you're learning. You have to have a skill, which comes with action. To then be able to go, wow, I'm never going to do that again. or I might do that differently the next time. It was good, but it wasn't that good.
So what was the initial seed capital for the startup?
I'd gotten money from my mom. We had saved some, so we started like $10,000. Like, it was
really very modest, and out of that 10K, I'm sure you probably did the Ben Franklin list, and then also the charts like, okay, X amount's going to go for this. Were you able to figure out because the key in that business is obviously portion control, right? Just like in any type of retail food or anything like that, making sure that you have it known by the ounce of what your profit margin is, right? So
yeah,
you probably had all that going into it.
I knew that cup of coffee was 45 cents. At the given time, the cup of coffee was 45 cents because everything, my profit margin was X if I sold it for this. Yeah. Your cost of goods was so important, especially unfortunately, when you went to brick and mortar, I should have reassessed it now that I think back and adjusted, because now your cost of goods is completely different.
For sure.
Because you have more staff.
We have more overhead, right?
Yeah. I was very specific about how I hired also. I hired high schoolers. And the reason being, I had one general manager that was an older lady, but everybody else was high schoolers. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted to teach them customer service. And I wanted to teach them about continuity of a process. Because if you teach kids young about, number one, customer service, we can stop this situation out in the retail world a little bit with people not treating people nice. Start it from the source, which is, hey guys, you have to treat people nice, and you're going to get maybe an extra tip. Get to know them. Do a little bit more, just a little bit of effort.
Make them read the book, Win Friends, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, and just totally see that if they were to put in a little bit more effort, they're going to get more out of it. And especially because they have to converse with the customer while they're waiting for their cup of coffee.
Right.
So it was definitely a relationship building situation for that teenager. And I had some amazing people. Like I had one gentleman that's gone on, he actually sold my house. He was the number one cold wall banker, youngest, top 14 youngest in the state of North Carolina and in the nation for cold wall banker. And he did that at 18. He was a $4 million. I think it was $2 million sales at that time for cold wall banker. And in that area, it's houses at that time were around 180 to
125 to 140. Yeah. So
yeah, he was amazing. And he was amazing selling our house, but he was my first employee. And I always took that to heart, is that I was trying to set a standard and get kids in the door that really cared about. I interviewed them and made that process. I asked questions that kind of dug into who they were. And that's the thing that's going into what I'm doing now, is some of my consulting is HR. So,
perfect. And we're going to come to that in a little bit. So let's hold that thought right there.
So all those entrepreneurial situations. So go back to that thought process of you have to do a little bit of everything. You're a jack of all trades when you're on your own business. But we're now in Tampa.
Yep.
I actually once we stopped the coffee business, I worked at Lowe's as a manager and then moved on to a store manager for 511.
Yep.
And that moved us here. Right? They actually moved us here for me to take over a problem store. Okay. And they were training me to be a regional manager. So I was building out stores, helping build out stores, helping hire in stores. And then COVID happened.
Pandemic.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, COVID. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I worked with Amazon, learned a whole new trade of logistics and same day, and worked on teams, all from the comfort of my home every day, making sure everybody got their packages, especially your same day packages all across the country. And then I moved from that. I actually left that for a little bit. And then I went back. Like I was interested.
So you left for a little bit. What was the reasoning behind it? Just need a break?
Because we were moving into the camper. No, it wasn't when I was moving. I just left because it was just a little bit overwhelming, the daily of just monitoring all of this volume, right? But I went back for a few months, and that's when I was still looking for local work, and I went and worked at Refresco, which is the world's largest bottler. And I worked in client services. So I worked on the Canadian side, did all of their like Jim Beam. And so the world's largest bottler kind of bottles a little bit of everything. Like they bottle Monster, they bottle Celsius. When companies are starting new, a lot of times they don't produce or bottle their own product. It's all bottled by a bottler. And that's what Refresco is. A lot of different companies, a lot of startups are always going through there. But all of Walmart.
The trend here I'm seeing is customer service and sales, logistics. Those three things seem to be the big points for you. It's a long ways to come from welding. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's the personality. I just couldn't get away from being in front of people and talking. I don't know why.
So let's roll back a little bit. How many years did you serve in the Navy?
I served my 4 years. So I actually had a child in between there, but I didn't stop serving. I didn't get out. I did my I came in on July 15th and I left July 15th. And
then had your 3 years inactive reserve, whatever, right?
Yeah, my inactive reserve, yep.
And then Clint served, 25 years total?
25, yep.
Yeah, 25 between the two branches.
Yep.
And then during that time, you had a fire team of kids.
I had 5 kids, yep.
Sorry, folks. Christina and I can say the lingo, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. For those, fire team typically, if you're an infantry squad, is 4 to 5 folks, or you could say they had a basketball team. Either way would work. But was it 2 boys and 3 girls, or 1 boy and 4 girls?
I have 3 boys and 2 girls.
3 boys, 2 girls. Sorry, I knew it. It was a weird combination there, but I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the youngest when Clint and I deployed together.
Nicholas.
Nick, that's right, because he was tiny, right?
Yeah, he's 6'4".
He's taller than I am, because the last time I visited you guys, I was like, holy crap, this guy's huge. That just goes to show how long it's been. And then out of the 5 kids, how many are serving or have
Just
served?
one.
Just
So
one. Okay.
my daughter, Victoria,
Yep.
she has had a year, or over a year of constant deployment. So she was on the Eisenhower going around in circles for a year. So she got a combat award for that.
Cool.
And she got combat pay.
Owns her own home.
And then, yeah, isn't that crazy? She was getting shot at, like how it works. She got off the ship and was off for 2 weeks and was back here, and then got stationed on the USS Wasp, the LHD one.
Yep.
That was deploying. So she had to go meet it in New Jersey and did a full deployment with it. So she had been out.
So hold on, let's just give the audience here a thing. Just so you guys know too, Tina and I helped her daughter buy her first home, basically, right? While she was deployed, and she got into it before Christmas. And here's the cool thing about having Christina as your mom. Victoria knew that there's some things that she wanted done to the house, and Christina and Clint are both really handy people. And keep in mind, she bought a home that's up based off of Virginia Beach, right? Off of beachfront, right?
It's
and they drove up there and basically remodeled the home for her, so she had a really nice welcome home gift and Christmas gift all in one as she bought her new home. But then, like you said, within a month later, she's deployed again, so she's not even enjoying the home right now.
No, this was before she even got the home.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no. So she was sitting on the Wasp while we were
she was on the
doing
Wasp
all these deals. Okay. And then, like, of course, the craziness that happened. Here she is trying to get this done, and she's in the middle of the ocean coming back. It was crazy. At least
she is now stateside on shore duty, right?
She's now still with the Wasp, but they're in dry dock.
Awesome. Yeah. So she's got some time at home now for a while. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We're going back down to finish the room, and
awesome.
We're doing some little different things to the house so that.
So what pearls of advice or guidance? Obviously, you're her mom, and we know how kids only listen so much. But when it comes to military stuff and the fact that you have served in the Navy, how much has she been able to take some of your advice? Whether it was warranted?
To Clint more than me.
Okay, gotcha.
Now
that is funny.
I was a crazy Navy girl, so she was a crazy Navy girl, and now she's starting to get into the leadership side of things. She's an E5, so she's struggling through that E5 phase of being a leader, and everything's thrown at her, and she's in an E6 role. So she's getting thrown a lot, and so having that,
she can handle it.
She's only been an E5 for a couple months, and they have her in an E6 role. I think they know that they just know that she's got leadership in her. So I think they just throw it at her because
that's how the military works. If you're good at it, you're going to be probably serving in at least 1 to 2 positions higher than what you're getting paid.
Yeah. So she's struggling with that, which is come home to dad, called mom or dad and be like, okay, this is what's going on. And I'm so stressed. And Clint's trying to give her some advice of, hey, just take it as it comes, just break it down and move forward. Like it's going to be okay.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit here. Like I said earlier, since your Navy career, you've been, like I said, it's either been sales or customer service, stuff of that nature. I want to talk about that because you've had pretty good corporate and entrepreneurial success. And I want the folks to understand that intrapreneurs and entrepreneurs are very similar to the same thing, right? They're both driven individuals. It's just one supports a flagship where that is not theirs, where one is their own flagship. And technically, you've had experience in both. When we think about it, from your experience with Refresco, Circle, Amazon, 511 Tactical, right? It is all played in. And of course, your own coffee shop. Talk about that a little bit. What was that like, that transition? What made the light switch flip and decide, okay, this is me, let's just go for it, right?
In terms of what? Like
just the decisions that you made, right? Think about it. So a lot of people think that when you serve in the military, unfortunately, you become similar to those that are prison inmates. You become institutionalized, right? You only have one way of thinking. But yes, I have a high and tight. I've had it for 20 plus years. I'm going to continue to have a high and tight. But it doesn't mean that I'm that structured.
Volunteerism.
What's that?
it goes back to my volunteerism.
Exactly, which that's a big part of your life as well, right? So
yeah.
what
Yes.
if you had to compare yourself to other of your friends or veterans that served that maybe have not been able to make that jump? What do you think are the limiting factors that affect them that didn't really affect you, that made you want to go out? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's just taking that leap. It really is. It's scary.
Yeah.
There's times I think even now I get scared to take the leap. Everybody does at some point, and it's just the entrepreneurial spirit. It's who you are. Like I kept always thinking that I could help somebody. That's who I am. Like even when I was in the military, I was always I was competitive. So when I got out of the military, I was competitive, and I just put that into who I was as a person.
So you have a
So
servant's heart and you're competitive by nature.
yeah, I'm a competitive person.
So knowing that, because people always ask me, can you teach people to become an entrepreneur? I think the short answer is yes. However, you have to have those two key ingredients. And if those two key ingredients aren't part of your DNA, yes, anyone can learn to be an entrepreneur. I think the question should be, can you teach someone to become a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah. So
anybody can become an entrepreneur and pay the bills every day and struggle. There's a difference between the success side and what does success mean to you, because it could be financial, it could be success in giving back. There's multiple.
I think there's stages there though, because we talk about that in our own journey. I think originally a lot of people, it is financial because you're worried about how do I put food on the table and a roof over our head. And I share my story with folks. I say, okay, once you've attained that and you realize, okay, we're good, the natural competitor in me and the natural person that wants to help others says, well, what's the next step? Now it's how do I serve my community? Or how do I teach other people that are like me that want to do the same thing and also help the community? So when people say, well, you just got into it to make money, that's not necessarily a bad thing because everyone has to be able to pay their way, right? So you'd mentioned earlier when you said, hey, you were excited because you were breaking even and you were being able to pay off the bills and you weren't going in the red. That's I wish more of the newer or younger entrepreneurs had that mindset that you have to break even first, because once you do that and you know what the cost is, then you can scale it to what, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
scaled way too quick because
but see, you look in hindsight and you're like, okay, I guess we should have probably maybe done it a little bit like this. If I had to do it again, this is, and hindsight's always easier, but that's also part of becoming successful is that you are going to struggle. You are going to make mistakes. It's whether or not you can rebound from them. Some financial mistakes are just so big that you're like, man, I can't recover from this, right? You talked about the pandemic. 511, I remember, was growing massively, right? I remember them having a store there.
Yeah, recoiled back a little bit because I think, again, they're a private equity owned company. So I don't know if the private equity firm has changed because they change their portfolio all the time. I don't know if they've changed out of that portfolio, but they have recoiled a little bit. They started to go down in our process. And I don't think it's the right. Personally, I don't think it's the right thought process. That's not your demographic, even though it started in rock climbing.
Yeah.
511 started in rock climbing.
Right.
That's what the term 5.11 is. It's a rock climbing term.
Right.
So, yeah, it is. It's a difficulty level. The guy actually made the pants for that.
I love it. And that's awesome. And I think they may have scaled into, who knows?
I know how it happened. I know how they got into it. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the story is amazing. Like it is literally, they made these rock climbing pants and they started selling them, and they had a customer service rep that was dating an FBI agent. And the FBI agent loved the pants so much that he was part of the school, and he showed them to the people there, and they said, we want these for the FBI agency. And that's how they started to design the strike. That's where the strike pant came. And that's how they got into the contracting side of 511.
Gotcha. You also mentioned something earlier too, how you measure your profits, right? Most people measure profits by units sold, volume taken in, net income, stuff of that nature. One of the VSOs that I work with, one of the veteran service organizations that I work with here in the Springs, Mount Carmel, they measure profit in people served.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that philosophy. It's something that we adopted as well, because you mentioned earlier when you're teaching young kids about customer service, the Disney way, or what used to be the Disney way. Who knows if it's still that way or not, right? But hopefully I don't get a strike on YouTube for saying that. But whenever you put the customer's needs first and you come from either a place of service or education, profits naturally tend to follow. Just look at Arizona tea. Arizona tea has been 99 cents since like 1984. And it's because the owners, we've made a ton of money. We don't need to keep making more money. We'll just make a little bit less. Our customers love what we do, and we love our customers.
Exactly. Little Caesars the same way.
Yeah, the $5
Little Caesars
pan.
knows it isn't the best. It isn't the best pizza out there, but they know it's $5. And if a mom that's worked 40 hours needs a Little Caesars, we're there for you.
I love it. So let's move on to the Make It Spot Consulting. Is that basically the business, your business now, that dovetails into what we're going to be talking in a minute? Or
So
okay.
I basically, it's funny how this came about. Like, it's the weirdest things happened to me, I swear. I know it sounds crazy, but I have been in the retail industry forever. Like, when I had my kids, I was a merchandiser at the commissaries.
Right.
That whole thing of 511, and then also Lowe's, but then I was also with Circle in manufacturing side, and did the retail, basically help the startup build out process, things like that, and really got in contact with a lot of people across a whole bunch of different spectrums of retail industry, like Acosta, and I've dealt with Walmart, but dealt with also the brokers for Walmart and brokers in general. So in Circle, I got to get a big expansion of my knowledge base because I was able to see a whole bunch. So when I started to work, I actually left Circle. I was in field marketing. That was not for me. I helped them build out a few systems, which that's what I was really good at, because Circle was a startup. So I was really able to see gaps in things, just my skill set, knowledge of just being an entrepreneur, going, oh, we need something here, we need a process here, and this is why. Right. And they were like, yeah, let's go for it. And I could see it become successful. I helped bring $1 million back to Circle just in credit backs in Walmart, because I came up with processes to be able to check and balance.
Hey folks, if you're here, that means this podcast has went at least 25 minutes. And I don't know whether I should apologize or say thank you, because that means if you're watching me right now, you're actually finding value in this episode. I'm asking you to do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and share, so that way other people can also enjoy the benefit of the information that we're putting out each week.
I came up with processes to be able to check and balance myself along the way and see, okay, I need to get this to here. And it's just a lot of analyst stuff. It's fun.
Oh, you got to know the numbers. I totally get it. Trust me.
But in that process, I found I like helping companies. So when I moved on to Gift Cash this year, I took a break in general. I did a little bit of a cookie business and did a few things, like volunteered for a few things. But in that process, I found another job that I was working at, which was at Gift Cash, and it was in the purchasing field. And it necessarily wasn't for me, but the company is a neat startup. And I was really trying to help them a lot with processes, but what they were needing was people. And so I had basically left Gift Cash, and I had stayed in contact with the CEO, and I was like, I can help you. Like, you need veterans. You want people with integrity. I have that ability to do that. So I started this consulting company because I was like, I think I have a niche for this. I think I can do this. Well. I have the abilities. I know I can give resources out, and this is a good thing. And the Make It Spot, the Make It Spot is perfection. Yep. Right? That's what it's supposed to mean. Is the perfect spot. Okay. I'm trying to gear this towards startups, and it sounds crazy. I'm going to go down this route later, in the next couple months, is I'm actually going to start doing TikTok videos for TikTok shop. When these people take off on TikTok, they don't know how to scale. They're lost on how to scale and maybe even how to get it to market. Because you can get it to market if you just know how to get it to market. And that's what I want to try to help is I want to try to get into a niche of people who are on TikTok who, let's say, Circle was one of them. That's how they got famous. And then they didn't know how to scale. They were literally doing everything by hand and they were doing it as fast as they possibly could. And it was just going crazy. And then they got the Walmart deal and it went even more crazy. So that's where I actually came in at employee 125. And we were still printing, moving and cutting and pasting stuff by hand to get shipping labels put on 2 pallets. So that's where I'm saying is there's ways to get companies beyond that and get them in touch with other companies that could help them get them to market. And that's where I feel like I have a specialty. And also HR, getting people connected with the right people is really fundamental. Like I see how important it is now. I just actually did a Milspouse Fest this last week in Tampa. And I got to meet some amazing people. And I might be going out to Hawaii to speak at my first speaking engagement. I'm crossing my fingers. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to actually help them on that side is because I see women struggle a lot in Hawaii. There were some that always struggled. We always had those wives that really didn't like Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I want to give them, and I had that. I actually had that experience when you guys didn't know me then, but when my husband got stationed in Hawaii, it was 2004.
Right.
And 2005, I think. Sorry, I apologize. 2005. And we were in Hiliomanu. And
which is a little bit of a ways away.
Ways away from everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I was there with all the kids. I was going to college. And I wanted back with my horses because I had been doing horses. I had been training and teaching kids to ride lessons. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a 40-acre farm in the middle of Missouri. I know we've driven through Missouri. It's beautiful. Why don't we just buy a 40-acre farm, sight unseen? It's good, right? My husband's going to be gone for 15 months. It's his first deployment. I'm scared. I don't want to be in Hawaii. So I literally, over the internet, back then,
oh my God,
buy a 40-acre farm in Missouri.
Wow.
And yes, I did that.
No laws were broken, folks. She didn't use a general power of attorney. There was nothing there.
No.
It was just
an actual specific power of attorney. Thank you very much. Yeah, Yep. So long story short, I literally moved 5 kids to Missouri because I just did not have that connection to Hawaii like I had the first time I met Clint.
Right.
And so I left Hawaii for 18 months. I lived on a 40-acre farm. And then I moved back because we couldn't get stationed. He just re-upped we couldn't get anywhere that would be close to where the house was.
Right.
So we re-upped to Hawaii. He got us back there. And it was a whole different experience that time. And it's that experience that changed my whole perspective of Hawaii. And that's where I want to go with, being able to go out there and maybe make that difference to these women, because you can tell that there's people out there that don't want to be there. And I know that the island can be prickly.
Yep.
That's how I like to put it. It can be.
Let's be honest. I always tell people, because everybody says, Jay, you are like the atypical Howley, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, how did you... And I was like the token Howley, like on local softball teams. And they're like, how does that work? I'm like, it's real simple. If you're an asshole, it doesn't matter where you go. You're an asshole. People aren't going to like you.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you take interest in people, their customs, their culture, and show respect, that goes a really long ways. And Hawaii is no different. Like, I can remember the briefings used to say, don't go out to Waianae. my dumb ass went out to Waianae because I met Uncle George, right? Uncle
Yeah.
George taught me how to stand up paddle.
Yep.
And folks, if you want to Google Uncle George, he's a really cool dude. He literally doesn't make a dime, has a ton of stand up paddle boards out there at Pokai Bay, and he will teach you how to stand up paddle. You just got to listen to his story, and he has an amazing story, right?
Yes.
And that's what it is. But I get the whole, and you're absolutely right, because there are a lot of spouses that have a difficult time. They get that what we call island fever. And I tell everybody, I didn't experience island fever until the pandemic. And that was after living there almost 11 years, right? Because once the pandemic happened and they followed suit like what New York did and they shut everything down, I was like, this is horrible, right? You couldn't do anything.
Right.
That was a different thing. But the culture, and I have so many local friends that are third generation business owners that literally they'll never financially recover. They were crushed by things that were put in place during the pandemic, which is just heartbreaking. But I want to bring back to that now as to, because you're consulting, you're looking for gift cash, right? You're looking to help them grow.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And they have a strong commitment to our veteran community, mill spouse community. I'm glad that you did the mill spouse event. I'm assuming you went to MacDill, right? Because it's right down the road.
No, they did it down in Tampa. It was at a gorgeous location in Tampa.
So,
and it was an amazing event. Like, they have a general's wife that I wish she would have talked more. Like, they had some women that were local to this area that were great speakers, and they have a lot of
breakout sessions.
It's not breakout sessions per se. They would have a panel.
Okay.
And the panels were really good. There was a lot of good panels, and there was some very, very amazing people on those panels. That,
let's be honest, there was a show that came out right around the time Clint and I was deploying called Army Wives.
Yeah.
Didn't really do a good depiction of what the FRG group could be about, right? Because the FRG is the commander's program. And just like you volunteered as the advisor to, I believe it was Z's wife at the time when we were.
Yeah.
I think was my wife involved because I was a platoon sergeant.
Yeah, somewhat.
Like, she had her own thing, professional thing going on, but yeah. But it's weird. Each program varies so much from unit to unit because it really does depend on the leadership and the culture and all that stuff. And what people don't realize is that the FRG at its foundation was actually created by General Moore's wife back in Vietnam. A lot of people don't know that. The idea of the FRG group was her starting because she saw what happened to military families when their service members deployed. Back then, you didn't get to stay on post. They booted you off unless you were a senior officer wife. Like, crazy stuff, right? Yeah. So very interesting history. And I love history, and I love anything military related too. But I love the fact, so why do you think Gift Cash is so committed to wanting to hire veterans and the military spouse community? What is your personal take, you think, on it? Is it more of you saying, hey, this is a great demographic that I think you'll be super happy with? Or
it's integrity. Number one, like, it is the job that they're specifically looking for is for you to be an e-shopper within a location, within a city. And you have to give up your 2-car garage. A requirement is a 2-car garage. A requirement is an SUV. But the other side of it is the integrity, because you are holding a large amount of their product, but they basically are letting you be a small Amazon store and letting you basically do all the back end pieces of an Amazon store. And you get a base pay plus commission. You get, after 90 days, you get benefits. So it's not a situation of, and it's especially great because the pay scale is pretty well up there. It's in the 60 to 70,000 a year, which,
and how many markets are they
commission,
in? Huh? Or how many states or markets are they in?
All. They're
really?
not. Yeah, they're not. That's a generalized range. It can go a little higher in certain areas. Let's say you're in LA or in California, they're more than likely going to scale that to that area. But that base starting plus commission runs at around 60 to 70.
So I'm curious, they say 2-car garage, which I get that for storage space.
Yeah,
But what if
it's
the
to
person
put
could get a
racking.
storage facility equivalent in size? Would that work as well or no?
No, so they're wanting you to be able to wake up in the morning, go out, and fulfill. So
Okay.
fulfill by pulling
Yep.
stuff off your shelves. They run everything off of a browser app, meaning it's on your browser. You pull it up, and it shows you've got this much to fulfill. It's very cut and dry. It is
Okay.
not a hard job by any means. Like, it really isn't.
Okay.
But you do have to go e-shop in the afternoon. And that's what that means is you go out to like your local Home Depot, talk to your pro desk there, you talk to your Lowe's, and you put in orders, and everything's on the app, and you pay with gift cards. The place is called giftcash.com or Gift Cash Incorporated, because on the other side of their business, they buy people's gift cards. And the only way to verify those gift cards is to purchase a product. So that is how they, in turn, are able to buy. We have to buy for them, basically.
So let's talk about that. If I'm wanting to target military spouses, especially like in Hawaii, to give them an opportunity. So the requisite is you don't have to own a home, but you do have to have a 2-car garage.
Correct.
Now, there is a lot of military housing where I think they are considered a 2-car garage. I think about where we lived when we were in the same neighborhood.
That's
The
a 2-car
detached garage, that technically would qualify, right?
Yep.
It'd be pretty close. So you don't have to own the home. You just have to rent a home or have a home base that has a 2-car garage.
Correct.
Okay. What is their initial seed money requirement that they got to put into it? No, none at all.
None.
Interesting. Obviously,
Everything's
past background
provided.
check and all that stuff, right?
Everything, your computer, all the printing stuff, they give you all the racking. They come out and train. You actually can go, and if they feel like you need to, I don't know if they're going to extend on this, and bear with me. I don't know because I didn't do it.
Right.
But they could potentially bring you to another location for you to shadow someone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, and they pay for all of that. Like, this is a legit opportunity to be able to go in and run your basically day-to-day life of going shopping for them, and then come back in the morning I did logistics. So I did all of the fulfilling. I received all my stuff and put it on shelves, because if you think about it, a warehouse has stuff come into the door. You have to receive it into a computer and then put it onto a location that you assigned it. So that's the same exact thing as a warehouse. And then when it gets sold, it comes off that location and then it goes out the door. So that's exactly how they're wanting that done. Some key fundamental things that I tell people is inventory, because that's how you get paid.
So if you've worked potentially in an Amazon distribution center, or let's say GoPuff, I'm sure you've heard of them. They're like Amazon, but for college kids.
Yeah.
One of my sons worked for them in the distribution center. Yeah. They target college campus cities, right? Having that kind of experience would probably be very helpful in something like this, because you understand just the inventory piece of it, right?
Definitely. And people transitioning now, if they're in the logistics specialist positions, things like that, they understand
supply.
Supply, anything like that. And even if you're infantry, you're dealing with POs to get products when you're buying stuff, especially in the leadership positions.
Yeah, say any leader in the military, you're signed for tons of equipment and inspects all that. So it totally makes sense. Now, but let's talk about the mill spouse side of it. Let's say a mill spouse gets into it. They're stationed in Hawaii. They're there for 3 years, as we know. That's a DEROS.
Yep.
Then they PCS. How easy is it going to be for them to pick up their business that they established there on Oahu to the next duty station? Because that's the other thing too, right? That is an
amazing question that I have not had answered yet, but I would assume that if it's near a major, so their categories that they're looking for is a million people and plus. So they're really trying to hit those cities that have 1 million plus. Let's say you are Hawaii and get stationed in NTC. I don't think you can transfer this position, and I'm just being honest.
No, you're right. Barstow has maybe 35,000 people, same as with Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I think it might be, if you're lucky, a couple 100,000 people, right? Okay, so that's good to know as well. But at the same time, the 3 years that they're doing it, depending on how successful they are, it may behoove them to, who knows, right? It's creating an opportunity. Like you said, it's the first rung on the ladder to entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, and they're also seeing a side of Amazon, which is the third party side, which is here's a third party that sells, and they're selling high end stuff. They're selling Milwaukee tools, DeWalt tools, Shark vacuum cleaners,
Yep.
Roomba vacuum cleaners, all your high end perfumes, Garmins, those type of things. They're not selling lower end items, so they're getting to
like stuff you get on TikTok Shop.
I try to get them on TikTok Shop.
Okay.
Like, I'm telling them to go to multiple different locations on my side of the consulting side, is because in a business world, you don't want to stay in one, especially on the retail end. They're acting like a manufacturer, right? If you think about them, you don't want them to stay in just one store. Like with Circle, we were very Walmart heavy, and we were like, we got to move away from Walmart because we're going to get pigeonholed into Walmart.
Yep.
And so that was definitely
and then they have leverage on you. If you're only in one location, then they can dictate terms later. Where if you're in multiple locations, you can say, I don't like your terms. That's okay. We'll go elsewhere. So I totally get it.
Yeah. So that's where the guidance, and they've been doing that. They'll go to eBay, and they're doing some different polls in different places to get that third party.
I would think, I understand the million population citywide, but I'm also thinking about if you're wanting to hire veterans and military spouses, I think of the place like Fort Irwin. That probably could be a gold mine. It would suck for you as the shopper having to go to San Bernardino. Probably would be the closest place that you could go to buy the goods. But I think about the people that live on post there. That's a 30-mile drive in the desert just to get to Barstow, right? Just to get an In-N-Out burger, it's 30 miles on that little highway. So that's where I'm thinking, like, that could also potentially be a niche too, where you're thinking about, hey, if we tap into the military network, there's a lot of hidden opportunities there that might actually increase sales just because of the fact that they're not around anything.
So all these items get sold on Amazon.
Okay.
So there is that's why, and they want us. Okay. So what the potential end goal is for this company and for Colin, who is the CEO, is he wants to have like a same day service. So he wants the item to be purchased, and for you actually to go deliver it to the person that has purchased it on Amazon.
Gotcha. So that's why. Okay, that makes sense.
He's literally trying to take the USPS out of it and the UPS out of it.
Gotcha.
And he's trying to get it to just be like, that's his eventual goal. And so those are some opportunities that are out there also. He's actually opened one of those jobs. He's opened that job description up across the country, which is to do same day or 2-day to certain items. So
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That takes us right into my fifth and final question, which was pretty good timing, right up to the hour. After your varied experience and setbacks, overcoming objections, moving like that, because that's life, what advice do you have for veterans that are navigating career transitions, right? What do you think is the secret sauce when you can look back at some of the mistakes you made that you could correct and that you've implemented, and now to say to somebody, hey, to avoid, this is what I recommend?
I think the secret is starting the connections part. Like it's really reaching out, like LinkedIn. Don't be scared to reach out. Like it is that more people want to help you than they want to see you fail. Always remember that.
And let's be honest.
More people want to help you because that's a self-gratifying thing.
Yep.
More people want to help you than they want to see you fail, especially as a veteran. So as a veteran, I would constantly tell people, please reach out to people. Some people are probably struggling just to find help and get thousands of these automated, this easy apply, and just are getting all these resumes, and these resumes don't have what they need. They need someone to actually reach out and say, I'm really interested in this job. And
let's talk about that LinkedIn. I'm a firm believer in it. I tell all my veterans that become clients, I'm like, look, I don't care if you've been in the military one day, you should have a LinkedIn profile at minimum and start building your network, because I always say this is the most powerful thing that you own is the information that you have on there as far as the people you know, your sphere, right? And I guarantee you at least half of your sphere on your phone probably has a LinkedIn profile if they're in a professional space. The other thing I like about LinkedIn, like you mentioned, there are so many veteran transition groups that are on LinkedIn that are exactly for that. They want to see you succeed, and they'll connect you with anybody and everybody so you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Because that ties back to my biggest beef is the 22 a day statistic, right?
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that if you have become institutionalized, as people would say, have served any significant amount of time in the military, you're given a 24/7 dose of mission, direction, and purpose, right? Very rarely are you given hope unless you have good leadership, right? Which, let's be honest, that doesn't always happen. You can have good leadership, and hope is not just part of their program.
Yeah.
So then when you transition, you're used to having left and right limits. You're used to having a mission. You're used to having direction. You're used to having purpose. And then one day you wake up and you're like, boom, I don't have any of that. Now I'm hopeless versus hopeful. And then I can see how that sends someone down that path to where they feel like that they no longer have worth. And then they become a statistic, right?
There's another side to that real quick is there's people are different, especially because I've worked in the corporate side of things. The corporate level of how people take a job, they look at it as there's a lot of them out there that look at it as a 9 to 5 and not a responsibility. And that it's not succeeding for the whole team, where veterans are about succeeding for the whole team because they have to. That's life or death in some situations. When you're going into these situations, and one of them is especially when I worked at Circle, is I had a couple guys that were prior military, and you could see their work ethic was different, and that it was about the team. We got to get this done, and what do you need? It was always, what do you need? And it was never just sitting back and watching. And you could see the difference. And that kind of becomes an issue for guys transitioning out, because you're seeing these people and you don't understand it. That's an oddity to you, that if you were a leader or if you were higher up getting out, like retiring, that looks different to you. And it looks different even with the guys that are like 8 years. Like I'm seeing like one of the guys I worked with, he was 8 to 10 years, I think, in the military. And that's hard because now you're at a level that you were performing pretty high in the military. And now you get out and you're doing like this lower level job because they don't think that these people can do X, Y, or Z, because I don't know why.
The adverse too, you got to be careful of. My previous company, I was in a C-suite position. I'd worked my way up, demonstrated my ability over the years of being the best at what I do, and then was offered this opportunity. And I saw the opportunity not for personal gain, but because I wanted the company to just obliterate everybody else through my expertise in helping them. What I didn't calculate for was the other sharks in the room. And when you're going into these C-suite positions, like you said, so it's not just going to the regular workplace and realizing that people just don't have the same work ethic as you. Integrity was a big thing that we talked about, right? Values. People have different core values. That's me putting it nicely. They're gonna smile to your face and pretend that they're part of your team, all the while they're trying to sabotage you on the back end. And those are pitfalls that you have to watch out for. So that's part of the other reason why I decided, like, that is not for me. I'd rather just build something and grow it that way. Why I made the decision to do what I'm doing now. But that is one of the things that you have to watch out for. And let's be honest, if you're on the enlisted side of the house, it doesn't matter what level of leadership you're at. Even if you make the E9 level, it's still a different world than a senior officer. Because the senior officer is about as close thing as you're going to get to a corporate C-suite environment. Because of all the politicking, right? And so that's why I caution people, like, when you get into LinkedIn, look for these groups, because they're a great mix of both. You have very successful senior enlisted leaders that have transitioned. You have very successable senior officer leaders. You have the in-betweens too. You have people that was maybe
and
a
ask
junior.
if they can mentor you.
Right.
That is, I had a mentor in Circle, and it was my boss, and he wasn't military.
No.
but he was amazing. He was a MBA from MIT. Like, this guy had some vision and understanding, but he was always willing to listen, and he was really good at it. I think I was his second employee, if that gives you any idea. Like,
Yeah.
but he was able to listen to things, and he was just such a high level thinker that you start to go, okay, I need to start listening to that, because there's a different level sometimes of people out there in this world that can help you level up. And don't ever take and discredit that. It isn't a hit against you. You're great and wonderful, but you can always learn more, and you can always be better at something. And what that looks like is, it might be somebody 30 years you're younger or 10 years you're younger, and that's perfectly okay. But you want to take the information that people have learned and utilize it for your success, because those people that I will always give Rick credit for helping me excel at what I did at Circle. And I had a wonderful time there. I had wonderful teams, and I'm still friends with a lot of these. I call them kids. They're literally the same age as my kids.
Yeah.
But I still hang out with them, and I still try to listen to them and have these conversations, and they help me out and help me find gift cash and help me become who I am. So I don't ever discredit age. Like, age in different levels and different experiences is all about it. Even though you're getting out of the military and you could potentially be older than a lot of your peers that you're going to go and be with, they might have some things to teach you also.
We always say two things. You're the sum of the 5 closest people around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the 5 closest people around you are just yes people, you're not going to grow. You need 5 people that make you better, then you in turn make them better. And so we always say the second thing is, we're always green and growing, or you're ripe and rotting. To this day, yes, I know I'm one of the best people in the country when it comes to understanding how a VA loan should be put together, but I still learn stuff every day, right? There's guidelines change, situations change, your clientele base, the type of clientele base I'm helping today. Yes, they're still veterans, but they are different than the generation of folks that I was helping when I first got into the industry, right? They think a little bit differently, right? So I think adaptation, right? Being coachable. You mentioned having a mentor. One of the best things you can ever do, if you have someone that's a senior leader that is proven successful, and they're willing to take their time, because you got to understand, time is a commodity, 86,400 seconds in a day. And someone at that level is probably worth at least $500 an hour. But if they're willing to take their time, say, hey, I want to meet you on Saturday, I'm going to teach you some stuff, and I want to keep doing that. You can't buy that education at an Ivy League school, right? Yes, you can go to an Ivy League school and spend multi-6 figures to go to that school, but you're not going to get that OJT of that successful person, right? Some of the mentors I've had, I would have gladly paid them for the expertise and experience that they shared with me. So, like you said, it's not a knock. And my mentors are of varying ages. I have some mentors that are literally 22 years old, but they are slick. Like, they are very good at what they do at that particular piece.
Yeah, it's very exciting about this generation that what is it, Gen
Z, I think is what they're called now.
And I'm like, wow, these kids.
I'm impressed. Yeah. Do they have their faults like all of us? Absolutely. But one of the things that I love about them is they're uber competitive. They don't like to lose, and they have a teamsmanship mentality, which definitely aligns with what we did for our years in service, about being about the team, right?
Yeah.
However, the drawback is, I think a lot of them have been helicoptered, parented for so long that they don't take failure well. And they look at it as, if I fail, how can I lead? And then you have to explain to them, part of leadership is learning how to get past the failure and then taking the step forward. That's the only thing that I've noticed. Huh?
They also get bored.
Exactly, right? So you never want to stymie imagination and stuff. You got to curb it and channel it, right? And stuff. But yeah, no, Christina, this has been awesome. Folks, call to action here. we are looking for veterans and
Yes.
veteran spouses for a job at Give Cash. I shouldn't say a job, a career, potential career at Give
Yes.
Cash. And I want to connect you with Christina. She is going to be your guide, your mentor to help you understand and navigate this. We will provide the link in the description of the show. Once this is published, this will be published on Wednesday, and then we'll promote it across LinkedIn, social media, other platforms as well. And then if you want to connect with Christina, do you have a phone or email that you'd like to let the audience know?
So it's going to be it's Christina at themakeitspot.com.
Okay. So Christina at themakeitspot.com. That's the email. Okay. Phone
And
number.
then it's going to be 252-623-9998. The
Perfect.
easiest way is to email me, and then we can set up a time on my calendar. I can send you a link and get you on my calendar, and we can actually talk about what you're wanting to do, because that's
Perfect.
the easiest way, is getting that conversation starting and see if maybe I have some connections in some other areas too that might be able to help you move a different direction, even away from Gift Cash, because I do have other connections out there that could potentially, especially in transportation. Still, Amazon always needs people in transportation. So
awesome. Christina, thank you so much. That's been amazing.
Well, yes.
That's going to do it here for today. We'll see you on the next episode. Everybody, be safe, be well. God bless. Bye-bye.